Hello everyone, welcome back to science classes. In this module, I am going to explain about respiration. By watching this video, you will be able to understand about the structure of human respiratory system, about types of respiration, mechanism of respiration in human beings, and about respiration in plants. So first of all, we should know what is respiration. The food material taken in during the process of nutrition is used in cells to provide energy for various life processes. Respiration is a vital process for life because it regenerates energy to execute the life processes. So actually, the catabolic, exothermic and oxidative breakdown of food to release energy in the form of ATP is known as respiration. It is also known as cellular respiration as it occurs inside the cell. Whereas breathing, it is the mechanism used to enable gases needed to come inside the body and to remove gases which are the byproducts. Generally, the terms breathing and respiration were used as synonym, but the two are different. How? Just see in this slide. Breathing is a physical process, whereas respiration is biochemical process. Breathing exhibits intaking of oxygen and release of carbon dioxide. Respiration exhibits oxidative breakdown of food to release energy. Breathing involves only lungs in animals, whereas respiration involves cytoplasm and mitochondria of all organisms. Thus, the two phenomena are different. Now, before starting the human respiratory system, I just want to explain about the types of respiration. So, basically, respiration is of two types: aerobic respiration, which occurs in the presence of oxygen, and anaerobic respiration, which occurs in the absence of oxygen. Let's see the details. Aerobic respiration, it is the respiration in which organic food is completely oxidized with the help of oxygen into carbon dioxide and water. So what happens in this? During aerobic respiration, glucose, that is 6 carbon compound, you can see glucose, this is 6 carbon compound, it is broken down into the pyruvate, which is 3 carbon compound. So that by breaking off one glucose molecule, 2 pyruvate molecules can be formed. And this process occurs in cytoplasm. This is also known as glycolysis. The glycolysis is common for both aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Further, this pyruvate enters into the mitochondria for oxidation of pyruvate. The pyruvate is oxidized and it produces carbon dioxide and water in case of aerobic respiration, which occurs in the presence of oxygen. And it produces 38 ATP. ATP is the energy currency. Energy stored in the form of ATP. So in this phenomenon, high amount of energy is produced in the form of 38 ATP. Whereas in the anaerobic respiration, it is the respiration in which organic food is partially oxidized due to the absence of oxygen. So it is called anaerobic respiration. It gives ethanol, as I had told you that from glucose first form pyruvate. That process is same in both aerobic and anaerobic. Then finally the pyruvate converts into the ethanol, carbon dioxide and forms energy. Here lesser energy will be formed. Only 2 ATPs are produced. So this is the process of anaerobic respiration. Certain microbes like bacteria, yeast, they exhibit anaerobic respiration. Now, when we do heavy exercise, then lack of oxygen occurs in our body. In that case, pyruvate converts into the lactic acid. Accumulation of this acid causes cramps in our body. Thus, future of pyruvate depends on availability and unavailability of oxygen, that what will be the end product by the glucose. So let's differentiate aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic occurs in the presence of oxygen, anaerobic in the absence of oxygen. Aerobic occurs in mitochondria, whereas anaerobic occurs in cytoplasm. In aerobic, large amount of ATP are produced, 38 ATP, whereas in anaerobic, small, only 2 ATPs are produced. In Arabic, total breakdown of glucose takes place, whereas in anaerobic, partial breakdown of glucose takes place. Let's start the respiratory system in human beings. Before starting, I just want to tell you that the organism which live in water need to use the oxygen dissolved in water. Since the solubility of oxygen in water is low, there is not much oxygen available to aquatic organism. Since the amount of dissolved oxygen is fairly low compared to the amount of oxygen in air, so the rate of breathing in aquatic organism is much faster than that seen in terrestrial organism. Now I'm starting the human respiratory system. The major parts of the human respiratory system you can see in this slide, that is nostrils and nasal cavities, pharynx, larynx, trachea and lungs. So I'm going to start. In this slide, you can see clearly the human respiratory system. First, nostrils, or we can say nasal cavity. So in human beings, the air is taken into the body through the nostrils. The two nasal cavities are separated from each other via a nasal septum. The hairs line the passage so that the air going into the body is free of dust and other impurities. The passage is also lined with mucus, which help in this filtration. Now the next one is pharynx. It is also described in alimentary canal. In the previous lecture, it is made up of nasopharynx. Actually, the pharynx provides passage to both air and food. A flap-like structure, epiglottis, is found over pharynx, which covers it. Now, after pharynx, you can see the larynx, that is the voice box. Larynx is present in both male and female with a little difference in the size. In men, it is known as Adam's apple. It is prominent in the men. The pharynx opens into the larynx by a slit-like aperture called glottis. During swallowing, the epiglottis closes the glottis to check the food into it. Vocal cords are found in the larynx, which produce sound. Now, after larynx, you can see trachea, which is also known as windpipe. The larynx leads into the long tube called trachea or windpipe. It bears some rings of cartilage. Here some rings of cartilage are found over the trachea, which does not collapse. So that, the function of the trachea is, it supports the wall of the trachea, and it ensures that the air passage does not collapse during respiration. So rings of cartilage are essential so that whenever if we are not inhaling the air, some gap is there between inhalation and exhalation, that time the air passage does not collapse, so that the rings of cartilage are found there in the respiratory system. Now, a pair of lungs lie in the thoracic cavity, one on either side of the heart. About lung, I'm going to explain after some time. First, you see the passage of the air, how it enters into the lungs. So, how inhalation and exhalation takes place. You just see the pathway. In inhalation, the process of inhalation, air is taken in by the process of breathing. Then air reaches to the pharynx, larynx, trachea, that is windpipe, which is covered by the rings of cartilage, which ensure that the air passage does not collapse during inspiration. And then this air reaches to left and right bronchi. Then bronchi further divides into bronchioles, then bronchiole to alveoli, where gaseous exchange takes place, as alveoli contains many of the capillaries. Just like inhalation, the pathway is same. It is inverted. The steps are same but are inverted. So in exhalation, the pathway will be like this. First, the air is in alveoli. The carbon, as I had told you, that gaseous exchange takes place in the alveoli. So now in alveoli, it is rich with carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide reaches to bronchioles, bronchioles to bronchi, bronchi to trachea, larynx, epiglottis, pharynx, and through nasal passage, it removes out from our body. Now about lungs. The lungs, within the lungs, the passage divides into smaller and smaller tubes, which finally terminate into the balloon-like structure, which are called alveoli. The alveoli provide a surface where the exchange of gases takes place. You can see in this slide that the smaller balloon-like structures which are found in the lungs are known as alveoli. So the wall of the alveoli contain an extensive network of blood vessels. After inspiration, air is sucked into the lungs and fills the expanded alveoli. The blood brings carbon dioxide from the rest of the body for release into the alveoli. Now the oxygen in the alveolar air is taken up by blood in the alveolar blood vessels to be transported to all the cells in the body. During the breathing cycle, when air is taken in and let out, the lungs always contain a residual volume of air, so that there is sufficient time for oxygen to be absorbed and for the carbon dioxide to be released. Thus, alveoli is the essential part of the human respiratory system in which gaseous exchange takes place. It is richly supplied with blood vessels so that here this gaseous exchange can take place easily. So this is all about the human respiratory system. Now we will see the mechanism of the gaseous exchange. How gaseous exchange occurs, means how inhalation and exhalation occurs in our body. Let's start with inhalation. Inhalation is also known as inspiration. In the process of inspiration, internal or we can say intercostal muscles relaxed, external muscles contract, rib cage moves upward and outwards as lungs are surrounded in the rib cage. Rib cage protects the lung. That rib cage moves upwards and outwards, or just like that, diaphragm contracts and flattens. In this diagram, you can see diaphragm contract and it gets flattened. So because of this, and ribs also, they move upwards and outwards, and diaphragm contracts and flattens. So volume of thoracic cavity increases here. So the pressure in the alveoli decrease as volume increases. So pressure decrease, and air always move from high air pressure to low air pressure. Now this time the pressure in the alveoli is lesser, so air moves in. This is about inhalation. Now the next is exhalation. How exhalation takes place in the human body? It is just reverse process of inhalation. In this process of expiration, the processes, or we can say the steps which are in this process, they are internal intercostal muscles contract, external intercostal muscle relaxed, rib cage move downwards and inwards, means ribs move downwards and inwards, and diaphragm relaxes and again it forms a dome shape. Just because of this, volume of thoracic cavity decrease, so the pressure in the alveoli increase. As the volume decrease, so pressure increase. And I have told you, gases always move from high air pressure to low air pressure. This time pressure in the alveoli is high, so air moves out. Thus exhalation takes place into the human beings. Now respiration in plants. How it occurs in plants? Actually, respiration done in the plants with the help of leaves by the process of diffusion. This happens as follows. Oxygen from the air enters into the leaf through stomata and reaches all the cells by the process of diffusion. This oxygen is used in respiration in cells of the leaf. You can see that in this slide, you can see that oxygen is entering into the leaf by gaseous exchange occurs by stomata, and carbohydrate is already present there in the leaf as it do the process of photosynthesis. They both react with each other and form carbon dioxide and water, which released out in this process. Thus respiration occurs into the plants. So in this process, respiration actually the plants do not need in the need of much amount of oxygen. So each plant part take care of the gaseous exchange. In this case, there is very little transport of gases from one plant part to another. Each plant part takes care of this gaseous exchange. Plant do not need great demands for gaseous exchange. Simply roots, stems, leaves respire at lower rates than animals. So they intake oxygen in the presence of carbohydrate. They both reacts with each other and produces carbon dioxide and water. Now a small recap of this lecture. What is the role of rings of cartilage in human respiratory system? So I had told you the role of cartilage is it protects, it doesn't allow the windpipe to be collapsed. Now differentiate aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic occurs in the presence of oxygen, anaerobic in the absence of oxygen. Aerobic complete oxidation takes place, in anaerobic incomplete or partial oxidation takes place. In aerobic more amount of energy release, anaerobic less amount of energy release. How are the lungs designed in human beings to maximize the area for exchange of gases? In lungs, alveoli is found. It's a balloon shaped structure which is richly supplied with blood vessels, increases the surface area for more amount of gaseous exchange, and gaseous exchange done with the help of alveoli. So defined respiration, it is a biochemical process in which the food or the glucose is oxidized to produce energy. How respiration occurs in plants? It occurs with the help of stomata, lenticle by the process of diffusion. So that's all about this lecture. Thank you for watching.